Three, two, one, ghost. Hello again. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to be here. I am Kyle, your host with the silent G, sitting across from me, best pal.
Natalie, the
Yeah,
other
that's
Natalie.
the other Natalie. I'm gonna have to make sure that we might have to go elementary school rules, so I'm gonna have to keep referring to you as Natalie P throughout this podcast, and then Jesus, I don't know her last name in this
I don't
movie.
either. Maybe we refer to Natalie as Alicia Witt, as her real
Alicia
name.
Witt.
No,
Natalie's
Alicia.
Natalie Simon. Okay, I have the Wikipedia in front of me. So, um, if and if that was not enough clue as to what this episode is about, or the title of this episode, whenever you're streaming it from wherever you're streaming it, I'm so excited, Natalie, because we are going to be going over the 1998, dare I say, very underrated, silent, under the radar slasher classic, urban legend.
Ooh, I like that you said it was underrated.
It has a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that that's the biggest indicator, but it's pretty much, if you have to get that low on Rotten Tomatoes, nobody is overrating your movie, I don't think.
I have some thoughts around that, and I think that it's going to fit in with a reoccurring theme. Anyone who's listening to this that was born in the late 80s or early 90s will know and possibly love all of the movies that we're talking about. Anyone outside of that realm may not have seen this movie. Is that, do we feel like that's fair? Or do you think that this is more well known than I'm giving it credit for?
I
Because
wouldn't.
it's 25 years old. There are people who can legally drink for 4 years that were born the year that this movie came out.
Yeah, I wouldn't think anybody would. I don't know. I mean, like anybody who was our age when that movie came out would know what this movie is or care about it. I mean, I think that what I liked about this movie, it was so perfect for me at that age, because like when I was like 13 years old when the movie came out, I just turned 13, September 98. Um, Thanks for telling me that right before I started recording, September 98. It was, like, gosh, I mean, I think every critique of this movie and every review of this movie, I'm sure, includes Scream being mentioned. I Know What You Did Last Summer being mentioned. I mean, after
Mm-hmm.
Scream came out in late 96, I mean, gosh, it was like less than a year later when Scream 2 came out. And then after that, you get like I Know What You Did Last Summer, you get this movie, Urban Legend, you get like just, a bevy of these kind of, they're not all like Scream where they feel like they're all like in the know or whatever, but these very like hip, fast talking. I'm going to mention it again, Dawson's Creek. That sort of, also Kevin Williamson, right? Like all that sort of dialogue, I mean, gosh, even Bride of Chucky that came out that year too, very much borrowed from a little bit those Scream, hits, that Scream formula a little bit. So I feel like this movie will always be under the shadow of just being compared to something that, yes, of course, is much, much, much better in Scream. But for what it's working with, I think this movie takes some swings, and I think at the end of the day, this movie's fun as hell, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy watching it each time.
I I agree partially. I think my overall view of it went down in this watch, but when I looked at the release date and I was like, okay, this came out in 1998. I know what you did last summer came out the year before that. Scream came out the year before that. So it's in that era of like a beautiful cast laid out on the movie poster and like that slasher like repeat. But what's interesting is I think this movie is much more fun than I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is very somber, very serious overall.
What are you
But
waiting for, huh?
but I was talking about it as I was watching it and I was thinking to myself, okay, this movie doesn't have the fun that Scream has because it's not as meta. And I swear I'm not going to spend this whole time comparing this to Scream. But then I like really thought about it and I was like, okay, actually there are some meta jokes, but it's not within like the horror genre. It's like more self-aware of like the actors and the characters and things like that. And I think there's some fun jokes in this movie, but it still has a more serious tone than like your fun slasher. And the theme is such a fun theme. So I feel like it takes like a lot of like chances in a positive direction, and some of them fall flat for me.
You had mentioned one kind of hallmark of those movies at the time is the beautiful cast. I think the cast is probably the strongest factor in this movie. Like, I've got this Wikipedia up. Like, what a kick-ass cast plus Jared Leto. We've got Alicia Witt. Alicia Witt is like, you got to have that just dumb, boring lead character that no one likes. Now, I think an exception is Nev Campbell in Scream, right? Because nobody likes Jennifer Love Hewitt in I Know What You Did Last Summer, right? Sarah Michelle Gellar
No,
is
she's
way
the
better.
worst.
And I feel like in most movies it's like, the lead, final girl in these is always the least interesting one, but you've got Rebecca Gayheart, MVP of this movie. Easy. Oh,
Absolutely.
geez. If there's some like MVP A and MVP B, so we'll get over that. You've got a kick-ass Tara Reid. She's a very, very underrated actress. She's in some great movies too.
And
You've
this was when she was like hot. Like not like her appearance, like she was like hot, like everybody wanted her in their movies. Like
th- Pretty sure this was, damn, another American Pie reference. But if we're going to be talking about late '90s movies, it's just going to happen. But this was, I think, a year before American Pie came out. I'm pretty sure that was '99. Did we decide that 2 episodes ago? I can't remember.
I believe so. Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about American Pie and Dawson's Creek.
I think it's the same year as The Big Lebowski, though. Um,
Mm.
you've got Michael Rosenbaum, who's probably more well known as being, he was in that Smallville TV show. He was Lex Luthor.
I was the whole time I was watching it, I was like, am I only remembering this actor from this movie? I could not place where else I had seen him because I didn't take the time to watch Smallville,
He
but
was in
I do like him.
he was in an early episode of It's Always Sunny too. I want to say like first or second season, somewhere in there. You've got Joshua Jackson, Pacey, come on, as always. And
He
I don't even
dies too soon.
yeah, I know. That was a fun one. And then you've got gosh, and then you've got like this roster of just kick-ass like horror adjacent people, as well as just some straight up
Mm-hmm.
MVPs. First you've got industry legend, I'm going to say industry legend a lot here, industry legend Loretta Devine,
Love
just
her.
always killing it in every single thing she's in, whether it is
She's so
horror,
good.
whether it's comedy, whether it's drama. She is awesome. I have not seen the sequels of these movies, but I'm pretty sure she's in them, and I'm like, I'll watch them if she
You
if she
haven't watched the
is.
second one?
Final cut.
Oh, she's like borderline like lead in that movie. Like they realized that people loved Reese and they needed more of her. There's something about Loretta Devine's voice. I could listen to her talk forever. I love the way she speaks.
You've got Danielle Harris, who
Mhm.
as the roommate, and well, she's awesome too. All of her stuff's awesome. I've got notes
She's
on
the
this.
best.
From being in two different timelines of Halloween movies.
Yes.
Um, and then you've got fucking legends, your 1-2 punch, right? Of both Brad Dourif in the beginning,
Yeah.
as well as Robert Englund, both industry legends in their own right. And so even that alone, I feel like just like watching that shit just brought a smile to my face. That I remember when we were watching it, once we decided we were doing this movie, the first thing I sent you that gif of Brad Dourif. Someone's in the back seat, just in the pouring rain, and he's so awesome. And I'll want to get to all that opening in a minute, but yeah, just the cast of this movie alone is pretty awesome. And yeah, I shit on Jared
So
Leto, but that first 30 Seconds to Mars album's Oh,
It's
it's
solid.
okay. It's okay. Yeah.
I think it's fun. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
It's very of its time. Okay, I have a few things to say
Sure.
about the cast. Do you feel that the cast blinds you to some of the flaws of this movie?
100%. I think
I
that I will willingly ignore, and I will through this. Well, no, because I'm going to continue just to point out like fun plot holes and things that make no sense in this movie. But all
Yeah.
it does add to the fun of it. It looks like everybody is having a shit ton of fun making this, and I would just kill to be on that set. Just get on a parka and grab an axe, literally.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
You kill to be on that set.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this was before Jared Leto got like really annoying, I think. When he was still like the cute, dreamy guy that was cast for roles like these. But okay, here's my thing about here's my thing about this cast. And maybe I'm only like thinking of like a few people here. Um, the actress in the opening scene who plays, what is her name, Michelle?
Michelle Mancini, which I mean, the other Mancini I think of, especially
Yeah,
after you've just seen Brad
Don
Dourif in this
Mancini.
scene. So thought about that. That was an interesting name choice, but yeah, Michelle Mancini.
Yeah, her acting is not great, but there's like a few side characters that they're just so terrible that the people like Robert England, who's always amazing and always
Always.
manages to be creepy, even if he's not meant to be a creepy character. Like maybe he's a red herring for this movie, but it really feels off balance when you have somebody who's like has that much presence on screen versus like this random actress in the beginning. But maybe I'm being too harsh because I really like the opening scene.
The opening, and I'm thinking, yeah, let's just jump right into it,
Let's just let's just
Um,
jump into it.
So first of all, I got getting Tim Burton vibes here with this music that I was
Yes.
thinking like, does this movie take place during Christmas? Because I'm hearing the Danny Elfman like din, da, da, dun, 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 whatever, and then complete with Michelle Mancini like having this Lydia Dietz like pointy haircut. um I was like, what movie are we in right now? I was getting hard Tim Burton vibes there, and I do throughout the
The
movie a little bit just with that music.
the opening music and like the music throughout the whole movie. And I actually, when I was on a tear of listening to a bunch of horror movie soundtracks while I was working, highly recommend if anybody needs something to calm them. So I listened to this soundtrack a couple months back. It's really good. Like just the score of the movie is really good. And I totally
Mhm.
got Tim Burton vibes when I listened to it. And especially in the opening scene, the music is very effective.
I thought you were talking about the soundtrack, like Zoot Suit Riot, and
Not that sound.
the
No,
stabbing westward song that's in
no,
there,
the actual score.
plus Zoot Suit Riot. Because come on,
Do we think that college students were playing that at their party even in 1998?
um, no, my only Zoot Suit Riot story, because everyone's got one,
You
right?
have one?
Yeah. No, I somehow made my way into the middle school band, but like ensemble band, But I was playing guitar and I didn't really know like the chords I was playing or really what I was doing. But I think I remember like, that and some other songs where like some chords were like in like a F diminish add nine, and I'm like, I'm just gonna play an F and hope for the best. That's not how music works. So but I do remember, man, that shit popped off at the middle school talent show when we got on stage and played Zoot Suit Riot. I think I got so into it for a second, I like knocked over someone's, little music stand thing, and it was a whole. I don't. I couldn't tell you how to play that song though. I mean, I'm sure you know.
I as soon as you start talking about music, I right over my head. Right
I
over my head.
I did make a note that, yeah. I mean, like who hasn't wooed a crush and made out to Zoot Suit Riot? Come on. Um, so we've got, Michelle Mancini, um, driving in the rain. I did have to look up. There are only two states where you cannot pump your own gas. So I was like,
I know
where does this
one.
take place? I know. I think Oregon, there is still like it's not all of them. You have the ability maybe in some, but the only hard
Hmm.
no is New Jersey, where
Yep.
at least this part takes place.
Kind of miss it. I don't particularly enjoy pumping my gas. So I would like to start with Tara Reid being on the radio talking to this college girl
Sure.
who shares that she's been stealing her roommate's birth control pills and switching them for baby aspirin. And her roommate gets pregnant. And she says, how am I going to find a new roommate this late in the semester?
That's pretty good.
That is
I
a
didn't
terrible person. What a terrible person. She's worse than Brenda.
I mean, what do
That's
you
a
mean?
crime.
She's creating life, Natalie. Come on. Let's she's assisting in the creation of life. So, I think yeah, that's one of our first kind of urban legends, right? We're introduced to is the switching out of the birth control. And did she even say why? She's like, I've just been doing this just cuz, or she didn't agree with it.
She doesn't say why, and
Yeah.
I have to say Sasha, our radio host, is the worst at giving advice.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the point of the show, is for her to give sex advice and just help people with their problems.
I just what college, like, yeah, radio station is like what teacher, whatever, hosting that class or whatever is like, yeah, I'm just gonna let you go ahead and just
I'm just gonna let
offer
you
very
go
just
ahead and let this girl talk about swallowing cum on the college radio.
yeah, I know, right? I never heard of anyone switching out birth control. I did remember hearing somewhere in high school about someone that poked holes in condoms. Um,
At
but
at our high school.
at our high school, yeah. Actually, no. Actually, I can't remember because the person that told see, I know this is how it starts. Because the person that told me was at TVHS, which is sorry, the other high school
The other
in
high
our
school.
town.
I think it's important for everyone to know that we did go to high school together. So if there were any urban legends, we can fact check each other.
Yeah. But I did remember hearing that story, but then I'm like, hey, so that's our version, right? Because I didn't even hear it. Oh, it's a friend of a friend, but he went to the different high school across town, and he told me this and this and this. But then I was like, I think that was probably just a nasty rumor about somebody. That wasn't very nice. Probably.
Probably. And I always thought that the poking holes in condoms stories happen more in college than in high school,
Just want to get a jump
because
start,
then
I
you've
guess.
solidified what type of career or athlete that person might be. And that's where it's like a nasty anti-feminist urban legend.
Right.
Right?
I know. So she's listening to this and then switches over to that song, with the turnaround over and over again.
Bonnie Tyler, Total
Yeah.
Eclipse of the Heart. And just keep saying turn around.
So
very on the nose.
That's pretty silly. One thing I did notice, so she pulls over to get gas. One thing, gas, $1.14. Oh, Jesus. That's awesome. And then two, when you see the gas tank go down, it goes down like pretty fast. Going from like an eighth of a tank all the way down, you see it just move pretty quickly. And I'm like, did someone like cut her gas lines? And then also, like, how would have Brenda timed that so perfectly to get them?
I wonder, someone who was a full-blown adult driving might have to fact check me on this, but I wonder if the gas gauge just wasn't as advanced of technology as it is now. So like it would just be like, oh, you're out of gas all of a sudden, and just drop more suddenly. Maybe.
Fuck you, dude. You're
It
out of
looked like
gas.
an old car,
an
older car.
I mean, it's 25 years old. I mean, I guess
At this point,
it wasn't then. I know.
it didn't look like a brand new car for her either in that moment of 1998. So
So she pulls over, and this is where we get introduced by industry legend one, Brad Dourif here, voice of Chucky. Sorry if anybody does not know that. Also in some other wonderful things, but Lord of, you think it's in Two Towers, or
he's
is it
in
Return
Lord
of
of
the
the
King?
Rings.
I think it's,
You
yeah. I
were
think
asking the wrong person. That's not my genre, but
he's
I
the.
thought he was in two of them.
He might be in both. He's the like the worm tongue dude. Maybe that's his name.
Sure.
Sure.
We'll go with that. We'll send that to the research team.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll shoot it out to the research team. So he's checking in the back. He's acting a little weird. He goes inside. He comes back out, and he's got, damn, this poor guy. I'm sure he's just so fucking mad at himself because he's got that stutter, and he's like, I'm just trying to tell you something. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Please stop thinking I'm a creep. I'm just trying to help you, and it is just not working. None of what he's doing is working.
You skipped the most important part. As soon
Which
as he
part?
approaches the window, when he approaches the window and stutters, she immediately goes, freak show. Just because he has a stutter. Like, she's a bad person. Anyone who treats Brad Dourif that way has it coming. She deserved the beheading.
I mean, as we kind of also unravel a little bit of the motivation behind, Brenda doing this, I'm like, Michelle is kind of awful.
She should have been the one that was tortured the whole time. If
That's what I
anything, you
was.
off Natalie super fast because she was just there for the ride, literally. And
Uh,
Michelle was the one that was like just pushing that too far.
that's what I was thinking, and yeah, yeah, it makes none. Yeah, a lot of this movie makes no sense, but it doesn't matter because it's fun. And also on top of that, like, I just think an axe in the back seat of a car just seems so inefficient. Just
Right?
the way to like to wield that, I would just say
A
like, dude,
knife, just right, just a nice clean throat slit would have been good. But also, you're going to axe someone's head off that's driving the car that you're in.
yeah,
That's
twice,
risky.
yeah,
Yeah, very risky.
just not giving a fuck because clearly, like, well, clearly she's not wearing a seatbelt, so I don't understand. I don't know.
In 1998, she may not have had to.
so we so she goes in, what he's like, oh yeah, something's wrong with the card, and she's like, oh, sure, whatever, weirdo. Goes inside, says the credit card company's on the phone. The phone's off the hook, and she picks it up, and it's dead. No one's there. When did he take the phone off the hook, and why would he?
No, he had it off the hook so that it looked like someone was on the phone. Then, if you recall, when you had a landline, if you didn't dial fast enough, it would do that doo, 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 doo type sound. And that's the sound that it was making when she picks it up.
But why was he worried that Brenda was going to see that it wasn't actually off the hook?
No, I think it was to lure her like in the building. Like, what if you okay, we'll switch this to a female perspective. She's
Sure.
already scared as hell to go into this building with this guy. She grabbed her mace. She's on guard. He knows that he comes across as a little bit creepy because of the stutter, and he's soaking wet in the rain, and he's Brad Dourif, so he looks a little creepy to begin with. If you walked in, if I would immediately look at that phone, and if I saw that that phone was not off the hook, I'd be out, right back out of the building. He had to get that door locked behind her to get her to like pick up the receiver. That's how I thought about it, because he knew he had to lock them in the building for safety, and then who knows how long it was going to take him to get the message out. Obviously not fast enough.
He bought himself all of like half a second there, but
Yeah.
so it doesn't it doesn't work.
His approach probably would have worked better if he would have just wrote it down on a piece of paper real quick and just like lifted it up to the window. Just there's someone in the back seat.
Yeah, like
He could
why?
have done that.
I mean, I would have said just try to yell it or say it as they're going inside. Just being like, someone's in the back seat, I'm locking the door.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least try to get something out then. Yeah. So I mean, but I do get it, I guess. Thank you for your female perspective.
I just
All right.
when he said that the card company was on the phone, like
Yeah.
that would have been enough for me to be like, how am I going to get out of this situation without paying? But the gas pump was I probably would have driven away with the pump like in the car
Yeah. Well, then
because you
you
can
get.
do that, and I've done it before on accident.
It's like I know because I've done it before, and it no
Not for safety,
no harm, no
just out
foul.
of stupidity.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so she kicks out the glass, gets back in the car, drives off. Again, the song is like telling her, "Hey, turn around." She is not doing it. Um, and then pretty quickly she just gets axed.
And
Yeah,
it's probably the kill that you see the most of, and the practical effects are a little rough. Maybe other than the dean, you get to
yeah,
watch him get smushed.
yeah. I did like that kill though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, gosh, so where we are. So we cut to now we've got the campus, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now the word has gone out that Michelle died or was, murdered.
No, they're at a coffee shop or whatever that cafe or whatever it is, and they're talking about,
Pretty sure it's on campus.
yeah, it's on
Right.
campus for sure. It's like a lounge or a coffee shop or something.
Right. I'm looking it up right now. Don't worry, I'll cut out all this gap.
Perfect.
So, okay, so they're yeah, you're right. So they're well, so it's both. They're at a campus coffee shop. I got to
Yeah.
pull up Wikipedia really quick here, um, and then they're telling the story of the Stanley Hall massacre,
Yes.
which is this under wraps. No one really knows, the details of what happened, even though it really took Jared Leto all of 2 seconds to find like a newspaper clipping about it, proving that it happened.
Oh,
But
the janitor left that.
the janitor left it for him. See, that's what
Yes. He
happens when I
wouldn't
wait
just
3 days.
just wouldn't be standing creepily in the door, like watching him discover the newspaper. And then Jared Leto kind of looks at him for a second, like, thanks, man.
But how hard would that have been to find that newspaper clipping otherwise?
But also, let's talk about the Stanley Hall massacre.
Sure.
If it was enough people to get murdered that it was considered to be a massacre, and it was at a college, so we're talking about multiple college students getting murdered in one night, do we really realistically think that this college could cover that up completely?
Let's
No
see.
way.
How many people need to die for it to be a massacre? Let's go ahead, Google. Are you gonna give me a number? Cowards. No one's giving me a hard
Skipping the
number.
research team, going straight to Google.
I do my own research now. I started following some social media. I started following Joe Rogan. I do my own research now. Um, so they're talking about the Stanley Hall massacre, which, yeah, apparently they've been able to cover this up. And then they're talking. So, and then you also introduced to Brenda as well. You've
Mm-hmm.
got Parker talking to Natalie and Brenda, and then that's when Paul, who's played by Jared Leto, he inserts himself and says, "Hey," he discredits it, saying like, "Bro, that's all made up, dude. You're just playing a game of telephone. Just another cog in
Mm-hmm.
that wheel." Um,
Is he like what I can never figure out is, was he a part of this friend group before all these disasters started happening, or did he just insert himself into Natalie's life?
yeah, I think it's the latter because I couldn't tell who was actually like in this friend group entirely. Like I couldn't even tell if I mean the
It
only
seems it seems that everyone was in the friend group except for Paul, but at the same time, Natalie almost feels like she's newer to the friend group just because she doesn't quite fit the vibe of the rest of them. Like they all seem kind of like wild and fun and like pranksters and all of that, and she's very like she's giving final girl vibes but not in the good way.
that's the slasher trope. Everyone else is having fun, talking about sex and drinking beers and smoking J's. So it's of course they're all going to be fucking fodder, which they are, most of them.
Yeah.
So at the same time, all the news about Michelle is spreading. And then you've got your dean, and then you're also introduced to Officer Reese, played by industry legend Loretta Devine, who are already working to cover it up, just like the higher ups in the police would, right? Trying to cover this
Mhm.
up, being like, whatever, it's just a thing. Don't even worry about it. It didn't even happen on campus, so I don't even know why they even feel as compelled to cover it up like they would in
Yeah,
something
she's
that
just a
happened on
student.
campus.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
she's a student there, but it happened off campus. Maybe they just want to make sure that nothing murder related is associated with the college.
The other thing about the Stanley Hall thing is how well or how not well it works as a red herring. Because, I mean, okay, so Michelle dies first. Natalie knows immediately what, or at least someone's dead, or my friend is dead.
Hmm.
Um, my main involve, or at least, my main involvement with her currently at this point, at least pre her getting axed in the car, is that we were both on probation entering
Hmm.
college because we straight up, committed manslaughter, or she was an accomplice to murder.
Which was reckless endangerment. I thought for
Reckless
sure
endangerment.
that would be manslaughter.
Reckless endangerment. Yeah, see, that's what happens when you're wealthy and white. You get off on those easy ones.
Hmm.
It's a slap on the wrist. But so that's why I'm like, if she thinks that there is a killer, why is she even bothering with the Stanley Hall stuff when she knows? Maybe since this thing seems to be following me and targeting me and already killed somebody that was a part of this thing, don't you think it might be involved in that time you kind of participated in killing somebody? Like it just doesn't click until much later, or at least when she says like, "Oh yeah, by the way, maybe I was involved in this thing that
I think
maybe
that's one
has
of
something to do with it."
so that's a perfect example of something that like I've forgiven over the years. And I say over the years because I've definitely watched this movie quite a few times. I've
Mhm.
forgiven that piece of the plot quite a few times because it's clearly there to distract the audience, because but also at the same time you're like, this can't be a I know what you did last summer situation where this guy's actually still alive and is tracking Natalie and had murdered Michelle. So I think it's this like fun way to just create more mystery. That's where like I go into like the Scream comparison, is that they're trying to give you as many different options of who could be the killer, because it could be somebody who's been at the college for a long time and maybe was involved in the Stanley Hall massacre, or it could be the guy that they hit with the car, or the guy who got in the car accident. It could be him, maybe he's still alive, or it could be someone in the friend group, which it is. But I think they're trying to really give you a lot of options so that you're trying to solve this mystery with her,
Yet they
but they're
land.
not good at it.
Yeah, I was going to say, yet they land on nearly the exact same plot as I Know What You Did Last Summer, um, which
Yeah.
I might just talk about really quick now. Just the more blatant comparisons to that movie, where it's like, you have an almost identical motive here.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that you killed in a car related situation, that you got off the hook about. Someone is taking into their own hands and getting revenge. Uh, One of the main people involved, David Evans, in I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was David Egan. Just switch one letter there. As far as he wasn't the dude in the fisherman's hook or whatever, but it is almost basically the same thing. Just you have
Yeah.
all these urban legends things because it can't be based off horror movies like Scream. What else? What else is kind of spooky we can base things on? So I don't know. I thought it was for all the different threads it tries to give you. It's like, nah, we're just gonna land on that other movie you saw. But
Well,
again,
do
still great.
you think that the I don't know what to call that coat that that Brenda is wearing, the that fluffy hooded coat that she wears.
A parka.
There you go, a parka. See, Southern California. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
She's got the parka and the axe, and then you compare it to I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it's the fisherman, and he's got the like raincoat, hood, and hook. I don't find either of those two things menacing or scary at all in a movie capacity. Like I don't find either of them scary. Whereas that silly costume that Ghostface wears in Scream, I think is way scarier. Like there are moments in Scream that are scary. Both of like I Know What You Did Last Summer and this movie, I don't find scary. I find them entertaining and suspenseful, maybe. But
If
I don't like
Ghostface,
that design, that like character design.
yeah, I think it's a pretty boring design, and it doesn't seem to signify much. Like, what is the connection? Like, it's like at least in I don't know. I guess Scream, they're just like, oh, it's just such a common costume. We'll just use that common Halloween costume. And then for I Know What You Did Last Summer, like at least he was a fisherman, so at least he would have
Mm-hmm.
access to that kind of stuff. Whereas
Yeah,
like, where's the Axe Parka
why the
situation,
parka?
and what does that have to do with urban legends, if anything? But um, so we before we get to, I think, oh yeah, I was about to jump into the Joshua Jackson trying to console her, but I think we jump into the urban legends class with Robert England, right?
One thing that's in between that is they walk by Stanley Hall. So
They
they
did the
show
Bloody
you that
Mary.
it's an abandoned building. I've never heard of anyone saying Bloody Mary in front of a boarded up door.
No, usually that's a mirror situation.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. And I almost maybe this is me giving Brenda too much credit, but I almost feel like that was her like test to see how well Natalie knows urban legends of any kind to do Bloody Mary completely incorrectly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or at least just to
And
introduce the idea that, like, even if we do it incorrectly, like, let's just introduce this idea of urban legends to her or whatever. Well,
mm-hmm.
also, just, yeah, very conveniently just being enrolled in that class where that just happens to be what they're talking about. I don't think it's even an urban legend class, it's like an American folklore class, but
Yeah.
there's the urban legend bits, and then you got, Robert England. Um, this
I would
scene,
take that class
this
100%.
Me too. This scene plus the other Joshua Jackson college class scene in Scream 2, um, straight up reasons I wanted to go to college, and I was very excited. I was very excited to find out in my undergrad. I was like, oh my god, there was an American horror class that I got to take, and we're just sitting in this large hall, and we're just talking about the mise en scène and cultural allegories behind like Halloween, you and I'm
was
like, this is incredible. This shit exists,
was
and
your was your professor as cool as Robert England?
she was murdered under mysterious circumstances. Actually, it turns out.
Rick, shut up.
No, she was okay. She was all right, but we had a separate writing portion of the class that I took because I need some extra writing credits. And that teacher, Heather Stansbury, was fucking fantastic. I wrote my favorite papers I ever wrote, which that means they're the only papers I enjoyed writing.
Yeah.
Just being able to talk about what did I do? Oh yeah, I wrote that paper on motherhood. As much as I know about motherhood, what did I use? Like Psycho, Rosemary's Baby, and shit, I forget the third movie. But yeah, just comparing
Hopefully.
just how awful it is to be a mother in movies, or at least in these movies.
I would
But
love to read that.
gosh, I bet I could dig it out. I'm sure I'm sure you get a Pulitzer. Um, so this urban legend class scene, I'm just like, I just ate this shit up because I'm like,
I
oh,
love it.
if this is college, then fuck yeah, I'm all behind it. And also that makes sense why, you know, Everyone's just drinking and partying in college because it's not like we're learning anything of any value. We're just eating pop rocks and shit.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, just imagine these kids all still managed to get murdered and they were taking a literal class that was talking about urban legends. So if it wasn't going to help them in this situation, it is completely useless for any other experience they might have in life.
and it's not even like Scream, where it's like, they talk about the rules of, a horror movie, or rules of a sequel, or rules of a trilogy, and the movie just goes and like doesn't follow any of those rules whatsoever. Slight knock against Scream, but at least with these movies, it's like if you know your urban legends, like you're fine. You just know not to. I don't know. I check the back sometimes. I'm always checking my rear view. You know,
I always check the back seat of my car, even if it's locked.
and I don't say. I just don't talk in front of mirrors. Don't do it. Just because, you know what? I don't know whether it's Candyman, or whether it's Bloody Mary, or whatever. Yeah, just no. Just why chance it?
In my head, it's always Candyman because I have no reference to what Bloody Mary might look like. So I'm always thinking of Tony Todd
Bloody, I'd
if
imagine.
I'm looking in the mirror. Probably.
Yeah, not probably with less bees crawling out of her mouth. Um, but I loved that. I love Pacey, wisecrack. I'm always gonna call him Pacey.
He's
Um,
always Pacey.
wisecracking, faking the pop rocks thing. Have you tried that before? Pop rocks and Coke?
As a kid, yes.
Yeah, me too.
I'm still alive to tell the tale, but it did
Yeah,
give me a tummy ache.
yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
I um I was into this movie a lot. Gosh, I must have dragged one of my friends in middle school to see this. I remember my mom dropping me off, or buying me the ticket and dropping me
Yeah,
off.
because it's rated R.
Yeah, there are a lot of movies that, yeah, but I did see this one in theaters though, and then afterwards, like, using my like chore money and going to Barnes and Noble and buying, this like oversized, comic novella of urban legends, and
Yes.
just
I
reading
did the
all of them.
same I did the same thing. I went and got a book about urban legends because I also watched this movie a lot.
Hell
And it
yeah.
was just the perfect age for that. And this was still when all these like slashers were being pumped out and they were rated R.
Hmm.
So it gets a plus for that.
I know, and I was thinking like, what urban legends would be good for the sequel, and then I think I got bored before that sequel came out, and of course I never saw it. So, who knows? Maybe they do pull some good ones. But Pacey is trying to console Natalie S here, and it's just like, hey, this is hard for you. Let's just go out. Let's just talk. Whatever. I'll be your friend. No funny business. Did believe it for a second.
As soon as he's like says he wants to like as soon as he sits down and is checking on her, he does a really good job of like playing it like I do not give a shit how you're feeling. Like I'm clearly trying to make a move here. Like I think he does a really good job of that. And doesn't he use to get her out of the house? He says that Parker, world's worst dog owner, is going to pierce the dog's nose.
Which is pretty mild compared to, spoiler alert, we normally I will not watch something if there's dog violence.
I I was going to start with, did you forget what happens to the dog? Because I can handle dog violence in movies. This is the worst dog kill I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, and we'll get there. It's
But he mentions piercing the dog's nose, and I was like, the visual that I got in my head of what that might look like is terrifying. It sounds awful.
so awful. I So they drive out into the woods. Dumb little joke, when they pull over and he's on the radio, and the DC theme starts pumping.
That
Who
Paula Cole.
I was about to say Paula Abdul.
No,
Whatever.
it's Paula Cole. It's called I Don't Want to Wait.
It'd be way funkier if it were Paula Abdul, though.
I thought that was funny. Like that was a fun meta little moment.
I think so too. I mean, that was definitely at the height of that show's popularity. It was like 1997 to 1999.
Oh yeah.
And again, like we said in the other episode, we're Team Pacey folk over here. And this is like the mix of like, it's like two different urban legends where it's like the dude on the car with the foot scratching, and then also wasn't there a situation with the hook in the door, or is that they bring that up afterwards where it's like, oh, the way I heard it was that there was like a hook on the door when they leave, because
So there's two different urban legends. So there's
yeah,
the one that yeah, you're right, that they see through, where the boyfriend is swinging, like you can hear his feet scraping or his hands, whichever way he's hung. And the second one is they hear scratching and they make it back to the house, but there's a hook in the car.
that's the one, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's definitely more that first one, but
Yeah.
thought that was pretty good. Again, I just think like, if that was, yeah, the parka doesn't do anything for me, so I don't get super
It's it's
intimidated by
not
that.
scary.
No.
And I think what's really really funny about this whole scene, it feels very dated now because, Damon goes through the whole story of his girlfriend who's passed away, and it's very clear he's lying because he says she had a syndrome, and you can see that Natalie can tell that he's lying. And she basically is like, you know fuck off, dude, like this isn't gonna happen. But he immediately goes into like saying like, why do you have to be such a bitch, because she doesn't want to make out with
Yeah.
him or hook up with him. They're like, okay, calm down. Like, you parked out in the middle of the woods, and there would be nothing worse than like having someone be aggressive towards you, like in that moment where you're just in the dark in the woods. But then it takes it a step further when he says he has to pee and he goes out and she hears the rustling of him being attacked. She kind of like hears a noise and is like, what is he doing? And I'm like, what do you think he's doing? That she's like kind of like giggling. Did you catch that?
No.
Like it's almost as if she suspects that maybe he's jerking off in the woods. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that would not make you giggle. Like you'd be like, what the fuck is going on out there? Like it's such a weird moment. I had no idea what was going on. And the worst part is of like, how do I not know what's going on? And I've seen this movie so many times. Like, what does she think is happening?
I'm gonna have to, when next time, I'll have to put the volume up and listen for it. Listen
Yeah,
for it.
it's just it's
Um
strange.
so, one thing I think I enjoyed about this movie is I felt that, spoiler alert, the killer is Brenda. Um I thought most all of these kills could have reasonably been done by a 22-year-old woman.
I agree.
Now, this one though,
This one's the least believable, but she uses the pulley system.
yes.
But I'm assuming, okay, let's assume that the rope is already there. She would have known like
Explain to me
where
the
they were
pulley
going to
system.
park.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where it's a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
in order for this whole thing to work, that rope would have had to have already been there because it is on an extremely high branch.
It's a high tree, yeah. Tall
It's a
tree.
high tree. So she may have known where they were going to park. Maybe Damon takes all the ladies to this particular spot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if it was already hung on the tree, if the rope was already on the tree, she hooks it to the back of the car. So now the car is lifting him and hanging him because you just need to get the rope on his neck and then it will do the rest of the work for you. But both of those things can't, like, both of those things couldn't be true. Like,
No.
logistically, she would need a partner in this situation, right?
There's I would think, but that was as far as I could figure out how that would be possible. But otherwise, I do appreciate um, how a lot of these other kills work. But it is pretty funny. She drives off. It just pulls him right up,
Yeah,
snaps his neck at the branch.
it's
He's
great.
done. And so far, I mean, at least Brenda's killing, kind of shitheads.
Yeah,
I'm
so
up.
far she's killed two pretty shitty people.
And there's going to be a couple, but also some people that have not. Well, I mean, so outside of Michelle, nobody else that's dead has anything to do with this.
Yeah, it seems like it's all a ploy to just torture Natalie, which is why I'm like, why didn't we go for Michelle and kill her friend group?
Yeah, that makes no sense. You could have just and then she would have had that extra guilt, like when Michelle dies, being like, "Fuck, she wasn't even the one driving the fucking car. I was," Like you
Yeah.
could have at least had that extra little bit there. But um, now one thing I think we missed, but because I'm pretty sure Daniel Harris has been introduced at this point
She
as
has.
her roommate,
And she walks in
which
on her just daylight, middle of the day, doggy style, door unlocked. I love that for her.
dude, she's like, what the fuck? Are you, what are you
Why are
doing in
you
here?
entering your own room?
I know, I love it. I love,
I love how mean she is.
yeah, I like how the 90s, like this version of goths, basically it's just having sex with weird people, smoking cigarettes, and hanging out on AIM. I think
Yeah.
the only thing you're missing is like maybe like a diner coffee or something.
Yes.
But I like this, especially when she's calling out for to see if there's a hookup around. And
Mm-hmm.
what did she say? Gothic guys looking to hook up. I want to go down, or someone who wants to go down a similar dark path, or
Yeah.
whatever she said. I thought. Also, I was wondering, do goths say gothic? I feel like no one says gothic anymore. It's
I
like
don't I don't think so. I mean, maybe then, but
I don't
I
know.
don't
I
feel
feel
like she's the best representation of someone who's goth because every goth person I've ever met in my life was actually very lovely and friendly.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And she is a cold hard bitch and I love it. Like imagine reacting that way anytime someone asked you a question.
It'd be pretty funny.
Sort of going to be like, "What?"
Never heard goth people say I'm looking for a gothic guy. I just feel like it's like people, it's like people in California that say Cali. That's a dead giveaway. You're not from California. If you call it Cali, I refuse anyone who disagrees. But I thought that was I thought that was pretty great, and just the idea of also just pre Y2K internet scares is always pretty good. They're still figuring all of
Yes.
that out. All the chat room situations and like this and in Scream, I thought were all pretty good.
Yeah. And just, the time capsule of her going to use the telephone and not being able to because Tosh was using the internet.
Yep.
That that is some old school problems.
Yeah, dang. I don't know how my parents put up with me if I was holding up the phone line to
I know.
say stupid shit in a chat room with my dumb friends,
Oh yeah, it would be on instant messaging just for hours about nothing.
Dang, you know how many internet girlfriends I had when I was like 13? It's
That that was a bad time for the internet because we really just had no idea what we were doing. Like we were just like, you know what? I'm 13. I'm grown as hell. Like I'm going to message people that may or may not be adults, children, pedophiles, be anybody.
oh
We were
dude,
just
I
going off.
I think I just remember going on a friend's, like family computer. This is like a Friday night. We got some pizza. TGIF was on, and this was like, and we were just like, let's go, let's go, let's go fall in love on the internet. It was a very, it was a wild. Wild West situation at those
It
times.
really
Not,
was.
but just completely unchecked. I'm sure how many serial killers. I'm sure I
Okay, I'm
probably
gonna I'm gonna take it one step further on a tangent. Do you remember chat roulette?
yes.
That is, I think it still exists.
It was always just dudes masturbating.
Well, I mean, you would
Not
think
that
that.
not that I
You
know.
would you would think that like there were a lot of dicks, but like there were also just like random people just like let's just do this, like them and a friend, like let's see who pops up and see who we talk to. That it's such a wild concept.
For a minute, I remember when I was in a band in San Francisco, we talked about doing a chat roulette tour where, like, we didn't leave the living room, but we would just pop up and just play songs. But then we just realized that's like just the digital version of like that asshole that pulls out an acoustic guitar, like on a plane or on a train or something. And you're just like, oh my God, no, like, stop it. Nobody wants to, nobody wants, nobody wants to be assaulted with that. Just give me the dicks.
I just realized we didn't actually explain what chat roulette is.
It's kind of what you think it is, right? You're just
it,
like,
it you just go on the internet and you're on camera and you press a little randomizer button and someone from somewhere in the world
has
pops up
their,
on your screen
and
and you
has
can
their
leave
dick
the
out.
conversation. Yeah, and has their dick out. but, but you could leave the conversation at any time. So like if there was a dick,
Yeah.
you could just leave. I'm losing it.
That's that sounds like
About chat roulette.
I don't know. You can just leave sounds like you're turning it back on the victim. I I don't know, Natalie.
Well, they could too. Maybe they don't want to masturbate to you specifically.
That's true.
maybe you're ruining their day.
Yeah, it's they just look at you and go, next, and we'll just try to get with somebody else. That's terrible. So, thanks for reminding me of chat roulette. I didn't. I haven't thought about
I'm
that in a
I'm
long time.
definitely going to research. I'm definitely going to send it to the research team of whether or not chat roulette still exists.
So,
Where,
um,
where are we?
oh my gosh, where are we?
We met Tosh,
We met
and
Tosh.
so immediately after Damon, this situation with Damon,
Yeah,
Natalie finds Reese and they go to the scene and he's completely missing.
yeah,
And so it's like it never happened. But the best part is when she tells her friends, when she goes back to this campus cafe, and talks to her friends, they're all like, that didn't happen. Like they're just not believing her at all, which
he's a practical joker. They established that the pop rocks thing, the bubbles. Come on, he's just
but
kidding. He
that's
tied himself
so
to that tree.
elaborate. So elaborate. Like I would believe you if you told me that happened.
Thank you. I'd
And
believe
help
you
you
too.
solve I'd help you solve that mystery. I felt like they weren't a
Thank you.
very supportive friend group.
Well, that's why again I was at the beginning. I was wondering, are these people even friends? Like,
Yeah.
so, and just the other dude, Michael Rosenbaum, Parker. He's just angry all the time.
Yeah, he's the worst. Isn't Kerr Smith's character in Final Destination also named Parker? Or am I making that up?
I think
Carter.
Carter.
It's
Yeah,
Carter. Okay, I was gonna say because if we've got two shitty Parkers, then we know that is not the name to choose.
yeah. Unless you're Parker Posey, then
Yes, then it's
yeah.
okay.
Um, gosh, and then when do we get to Tasha's death?
She's the next death.
That's right afterwards, right? Yeah,
That's right
and
afterwards. So that's
a
where she's chatting and she, is
similar
looking
dark
for hookup
paths,
online.
and she's like, "All right, let's do it." I did think it was a good play on the I mean, like, how many different types of unique college deaths you could have. I did like the idea of like, oh yeah, they do have bathrooms separate, like down the down the
Mm-hmm.
dormitory, so like there would be that quick separate time where Brenda could get inside,
Yep.
especially if she's not thinking much, so I thought that was pretty clever, that part. I liked that. And then
Yeah,
Just
I like that Natalie just assumes she's just getting busy again. So she's like, oh, this time I'm not going to turn on the light.
yeah, I learned better. I know this.
I know.
I know those violent sex sounds you make.
Yeah, those did not sound like sex sounds at all. Like, even from out in the hallway, I'd be like, somebody's struggling in there. Like, that does not sound like sex happening, even if they are gothic kids. That sounded like a struggle.
No matter how dark their lithium path was, I think. Yeah, I guess. Oh yeah, right. Because they wanted to look like a suicide, but then like how?
Hmm.
Because they would see that she was like to be choked. Like
Violently choked to death.
you would you'd see visible marks like bad like that,
Hmm.
and more so than I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, I think by the time someone tries to do that to themselves, I think he'd pass out before, you know, but I
Like
don't know.
her eyes were open, which would not be the case. I would assume that you don't just, like, if you're losing blood, you're probably
Yeah.
going to pass out at some point. But what I thought was interesting is that the dean, so you have the
Hmm.
dean and Reese, who like just take on this investigation. Like, where are the police? And they're like,
Love
well,
it.
we're gonna have to rule it a suicide. And I'm like, wait, what? You don't have that authority. You don't get to decide what happened here. Oh, and then
I
that mean
yes,
girl who says, you better
I wrote
check
it
her
down.
pulse. She's what's the quote? Give me the exact quote.
Better check her pulse. She's looked like that for years.
That's fucking terrible. Can you imagine?
It's
I would
pretty
expel
funny.
that girl.
I I know. I'm just like,
Expelled.
how fucked up is that? And then also I thought it was funny because then it goes to the scene where it's like, it's like Natalie and is it Natalie and Paul or Natalie and the Dean or whatever? And she's just like, no, this is what happened. Or she's talking to Reese, I'm sorry, being like, here's what
Mm.
happened, and this and this and this. And then there's like a long enough amount of time. And then you see Tosh getting wheeled by again. And I'm like, are they just like taking like the long route around
No,
campus,
no.
pushing this body around to the
When they
ambulance?
first, okay, no, no, no. When the coroner first passed by, they have the stretcher and it has their toolkit on top of it. So that's when they come in.
And that's when
Then
she
when
said,
they
better
go
check her
out,
pulse.
yes. Then
All
when they
right.
go out, her body's on there. They don't just roll back and forth through the room.
I'm like, why are y'all doing this?
In case you all didn't get your fill, here she is again.
This poor girl's dead. I mean, like, regardless of whatever her choice is, she's a scholar. She is probably has a
Oh.
family that cares, right? I would think. But yeah, I that was my note. Are they going to be wheeling her throughout the entire campus? Um, and
That's
then
great.
yeah, and then let's see what happens. What happens after this? So it's well, no, okay. This is when Natalie is like, okay, maybe here's kind of what happened, and tells Brenda, right, that
Yeah.
okay, we were involved. Even though Brenda's like, I know this. Don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, what?
What? Yeah, I know. Just those wonderful wide eyes. Rebecca Gayhart's so cool.
I love her. I love her
And
so much. 90s
uh,
superstar.
what was that joke at the end where it's like, someone said she looked like the Noxzema girl or something,
Because
you
she
know?
was in the Noxzema commercials.
Yeah, yeah.
I know that was a fun one too.
Then at the same time, Paul is trying to figure out or is like investigating these urban legends. And then
Hmm.
is that when he finds out that it actually happened and he got the.
No, this little piece here, this is where they're looking through all the archives. So looking through the archives, the book for 73 is missing. Then they start asking the janitor, who by the way is listed as weird janitor.
Love it.
Weird janitor.
That dude's
He
probably like 32. I was like, this dude's probably younger than I am, but they make him look like
seriously.
he's this like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if he would have been there, like he's not old enough to have been the janitor back in 73.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're asking him if he knows anything, and he's just like, fuck off, and kind of walks away.
Hmm.
And that puts a stop in their investigation. Then Brenda enters back into the equation and tells Natalie she should go to this party, Parker's party. And that's where you cut to the dean and his death.
Which was a fun one.
It is a fun one. And I love that Reese is like, we need more security. And he says that Damon is probably shacked up in a hotel somewhere with a girl or a guy or a farm animal. Reese
Okay.
is like, what kind of 18 did you live?
Oh yeah, it's like everyone's been 18, and then she goes, not that kind of 18.
Yeah, like what's Dean? I want to know more about the Dean's college history.
And then but again, pretty great. I love going over those spikes with him.
Yeah,
Fun
and
death.
the that tendon being cut is always, ooh, that is so hard to watch
Mm.
whenever it happens in a movie.
Yeah, it's like
But also, he could have just crawled to the right or left and avoided the car.
yeah, he chose it's like
He chose to just keep going straight forward, right in the path of the car.
he wanted to, I think he was
He
accepting
was
that
ready.
this is his time. He was ready. And he's like, what would be a cool death? I'm just
I
gonna
liked
roll
his
over
death.
here.
I
Yeah,
think
me
his
too.
might be my I think his might be my favorite. Even though, is that an urban legend? Oh, the slicing. The slicing is the urban legend. Someone waiting under your car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um and then I think we missed a couple things. I mean, I think there's still some red herrings about it being Wexler, where they think they find, the
Oh yeah.
parka and the axe in his office. Um,
Which no one thought it was Wexler.
no one thought it was Wexler. Come on,
Yeah.
Robert England wouldn't hurt a fly. Um, so then, oh, and they also, I did appreciate that college, that beautiful college library that I have
Mm.
never I have never seen one like that on a college campus in person. That's also open at all hours of the night, and then also has just urban legend books available.
I could be wrong,
Yeah.
but the exterior of that college during the day looked like UCLA. And UCLA has a big, beautiful library. And how I know this
Uh-huh.
is because in season one of Buffy the or no, I'm sorry, episode one of season 5 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they film at UCLA, and they have one shot where they're actually inside of the UCLA library, and it's like really big and beautiful, and it doesn't look like a library you would expect to see in like a newer California campus,
Hmm.
but it has that like charm, that like East Coast charm to it. But I wonder if that's UCLA.
But yeah, I would love to just be there in the middle of the night, just with books of just urban legends and newspaper
The Kama
scrolls, just trying
Sutra.
to. Oh yeah, I know. Just a pretty one note for Tara Reid, but I
Oh
just
yeah.
I enjoy the energy. I enjoy the
Yeah.
enthusiasm. Um, so they I did appreciate this was before the dean died, but they were like, Jared Leto and Natalie S are getting too close to the story, right? So Jared Leto gets kicked off the paper. One thing I thought was really funny was, well, first when Jared Leto is trying to, it's just him as a journalist, I thought was just really funny.
Yeah.
Or like first, he's trying to press Natalie for questions, and he goes, hey, I'm just trying to do my job, and I'm just like, bro, hold yourself. You're an undergrad
It is
journalism
not your job.
major. This is not your job. Your job is probably working at that cafe, part time, whatever on
Yes.
weekends, dude. I thought that was really funny. I also thought when he gets kicked off the school paper, he's just like, oh, my journalism career is ruined. But honestly, we're thinking 1998, like, and thinking about what happens to the internet and print journalism over
Yeah.
the years, honestly, I think a changing career path would probably be, I couldn't think of a more opportune time to jump off
Yeah.
that dying train, you know what I mean? So
He dodged a bullet, really,
I think so.
and an axe.
And then yeah, and then when they're at the party, when Jared Leto's like, "Hey bro, I think we need to shut this down." Parker's just like, "Oh,
Oh, he's the worst.
you're just you can't accept the fact that you're just going to graduate and end up just writing columns for Martha Stewart Living." To which I'd be like, "Dude, any journalism major like with a bachelor's would be the fucking
A
sweet
dream.
spot to be able to have that like
Hell
consistent work
yeah.
for Martha Stewart Living. That's incredible. A lot of
Yeah.
people would kill for that. So it is not the flex or the insult that Parker thinks it is.
No.
So
He also, but going back to Parker being a dick,
yeah,
um, he also is feeding he's the world's worst dog owner. He also, or like pet parent. I wouldn't even call him a pet parent. He's a dog owner. He has a beer bong with the dog's name on it, and they're
yeah,
just feeding that poor little dog beer.
that's a small dog. I don't like that.
He's an abuser. I don't like him.
That dog was definitely the clear victim of this movie, the biggest victim in this movie.
So this is the part when we get to this party is when I realized for the first time ever
Mhm.
watching this movie for what might be like the 20th, 30th time. Is it Halloween?
Well,
They're
I
wearing
mean,
costumes.
it's yeah, and they're not wearing. Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. It's
Some of them are wearing costumes and some of them are not.
Yeah, so it's not a Halloween, it's just a spooky celebration of some sort because it's the massacre that still may or may not have
Yeah.
happened. It's its anniversary. So I don't, but
Should
maybe
have
some
checked
people are
that
just like,
date.
hey,
Should
I
have
mean,
checked the date on that newspaper.
you only have the opportunity, to wear that slutty Mario costume so many times, right? So you're just like, oh, geez, if there's another opportunity to
There,
wear a
there's a
spooky
spooky
costume.
gathering.
Oh, I
I'm
mean,
gonna
well, gosh, let me throw that question right back at you. If there was a Halloween, or if there was a holiday in like 2 weeks that required spooky costumes, you would be into that, right?
Yes, of course. Now this
Yeah,
is kind of making me feel like I need to throw an off-season Halloween party.
just getting a little extra spooky time. So, I alluded to this earlier, but who hasn't wooed a girl and made out a little bit to Zoot Suit Riot? Because they certainly did, and it was pretty funny. And then you get Brenda who's upset because she'd alluded to like I think Paul's cute, and then
Mm-hmm.
so like Paul's just like, what was that? Why is she
Yeah,
so upset?
Paul's completely clueless, which I absolutely love. And I will say I think for how close Brenda and Natalie seem, I mean, obviously they couldn't have been friends for that long,
Right.
but for how close they seem, she definitely should have done like a friend check on that one and asked like, hey, I think like she could even say like it seems like Paul's kind of into me. Although I think Paul was only into her because she's so closely attached to all the murders and his journalism needs are pushing him towards her.
Hmm,
Maybe.
that's true. It's just always he's in love with the job that he
Yes.
doesn't have.
Yeah, Brenda's pissed and sad.
Right. So she takes off, but really she's just like, nah, I'm just gonna go just murder some people.
Yeah.
And then we get to my least favorite death in the movie.
Oh, it's the worst.
Where geez, I mean, but outside of the dog dying, I did like that you get that scream kind of bit, where he's on the phone talking, even though
Mm.
not a good voice, but also I think you could tell that it's a female with a
Oh
voice
yeah.
recorder.
You can tell that it's actually Rebecca Gayheart too, because you can hear the inflections in her voice. Like I feel like she has a very specific way that she talks and I could hear it. Yeah, but not a great voice changer.
I but yeah, it's like, oh, is this the one with the babysitter? Well, guess what? I'm not babysitting. And then it's like, ugh, how about the one with the dog dried off in the microwave? And yeah, again, it's like
I
fucked
think
up.
I remember that being in the trailer too, like him on the phone.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember that being in the trailer and thinking that that was quite spoilery, but it's pretty brutal that they show you like the the pieces of the dog in the microwave. Like that is
I
that
try to look away. When we were on when I
it's
was watching it,
rough.
I was
It looks the practical effects wise, it looks great.
yeah, looks pretty rough.
Yeah. Oh, damn it. God
I was
damn
just
it.
okay. um so yeah, I know I was watching it with my wife, and I was like going up to get a beer, and then I realized that happened, and then I like ran back to the TV and I was like,
Oh
turn it off.
no.
And she's like, I know what happens. We look in, and she looks away. I don't like to look because I don't know why it's my thing. You can kill children all whole day. Not an issue for me. Not at all. But just, if I can hurt a dog, come on. They're just trained to love you, and just, then you're getting it drunk, and then if you took better care of
Yeah.
that dog, it'd be never leave his side, and it wouldn't be in that microwave. And then also, I don't think that microwave was big enough for that dog. So I
No,
don't know.
no, it definitely was not. Like that's a little Westie. Like they're
Yeah,
bulky little guys. Like that dog wasn't fitting in that tiny microwave. They could have at least sold it a little better with a like a larger industrial size microwave.
convection oven kind of situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Um. Gosh. Well,
Well,
okay.
he
So
gets killed.
he gets
Parker
killed.
dies.
So it goes to probably maybe my favorite death in the movie.
Mm.
I like the Parker death one because he sucks. So no hard feelings. You know, doesn't bum me out like the previous one, and the next one is gonna bum me out. Um,
Mm.
and I just like like the pop rocks thing. It's just like fuck it, like let's pour some pop rocks
Pop
in
Rocks
just
and
cause.
Drano.
And Drano. I mean, you could have just done the Drano, and nobody would have known. It's not like anyone's. I mean, I guess when you find the body,
Well,
you'll see pop rocks,
when they
but
find the body, they'll say, "Oh my God, Pop Rocks and Drano. What sick fuck did this?
who knew? I didn't know those couldn't mix.
I will never try that combination."
Yeah, I thought it was just pop rocks and Coke. I thought pop rocks and everything else was just fine. But I
Yeah,
thought that was
it
good.
kind of feels like cheating a little bit on the urban legend
I like it.
situation.
It's just like the Bloody Mary thing to a wooden, board earlier. It's just like, fuck it, close enough.
You know what I'm just realizing?
Hmm.
She uses the like beer bong tube as well. It would have been better if she didn't kill the dog and just did that to him, like as revenge for like feeding that dog that amount of beer through a beer bong. Because that's she uses the beer bong tube to feed him the Drano.
Yeah, I think the movie would have
Poison for
gotten that.
poison.
I think the movie would have gotten a half a star better if the dog didn't die, and then while she's pouring pop rocks in Drano, she just whispers into his ear, be nice to fucking dogs, you motherfucker, and then just,
Yeah.
just like that. Then I'd
Yes.
be like, how bad is this killer really?
Yeah.
So he's
He's
dead as
just
fuck, which good riddance. That's
yeah.
fine. He's you need some fodder, and it's good that when it's people you hate. Now, whereas again, I really like Tara Reid. I mean, I know she's pretty one note, but she's just nice enough in this movie. And
And has nothing to do with the situation. Like,
nothing to do with this.
yeah.
She's just like,
I
oh,
I
Natalie,
feel
you're
for
reading
her.
about, yeah, it's like, Natalie, you're reading about urban legends. Oh, okay, that's cool. I'm gonna go do my thing. She
I'm
has
gonna go do some
no
crazy positions with my man.
right, and it is,
She has the longest, she's the only one with a chase scene, like a
yeah.
full chase scene. And also her death is not an urban legend. Am I wrong?
I think the urban legend part is that you could
Is her
hear
being
her
through the
voice
speakers.
over the speakers, and nobody,
Yeah.
boy who cried wolf kind of situation. Maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily, but at least everyone's thinking it's not a serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did think, again, because she does not, for comparison's sakes, because I've been comparing these two movies already. She does not put up the fight that Sarah Michelle Gellar does, and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
No.
But I thought, if any, now Sarah Michelle Gellar's death in I Know What You Did Last Summer is the saddest kill, I think, of any slasher that I've seen, because I fucking feel for her. And also, god damn, you get so fucking close, and it was such a great chase scene, that whole thing. And this is a very truncated, shitty version of it, but at the end it's just like, Parterre Reed, she's just crying, she's like, I don't want to die, please, I don't want to die. And then she just gets hacked to fucking pieces with an axe, and you're just like, Jesus, come on, like, what, Brenda, why'd you have to do this whole fucking thing? Like,
Yeah, it feels really unnecessary and like an extra step, and just an unnecessary risk. Like, why would you kill someone who's not in your way whatsoever? She's at the radio station. She's not doing anything. She's not helping solve any mysteries. So
she's not
let her
impeding.
be.
Yeah, you're good. She's
Yeah.
not getting in anybody's way.
Yeah.
But so she dies. That bums me out. But again, I think with, so far both of those deaths, all those deaths, still, again, very reasonably could have been done by a 22-year-old Rebecca Gayheart.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that with the voice, I think that's when, like, if I was really like caring about this movie the first time and like really paying attention, I'm like, oh, it's totally Rebecca Gayheart. I think you'd be able to call that pretty early.
I don't think that I called it at that point. I think I was still on the fence about whether or not it was Paul. But yeah, I don't think that I fully knew it was her, like, at that point in the movie. But I mean, obviously it has to be one of those two. Like, it's gonna be Paul or Brenda.
She, Natalie hears the radio, so does Loretta Devine.
Mm-hmm.
So they all try to rush over to the radio station. Natalie S finds her dead, um, and then runs off. And then, of course, Loretta Devine finds her as well separately, and then they meet up again, being like, "We need to get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, so this is at this point, has Reese found Wexler's blood yet?
Oh, right. So she's going
Was that
back.
before or after this?
I think it's before this. So like she finds, or she goes, like, sees that we see that the parka and axe aren't there anymore. And then there's the blood. But we don't find Wexler's body until the back
he's
of
in the trunk
of Jared Leto's car. So they and I think maybe when she's leaving after finding the blood in Wexler's office, that's when she hears Tara Reid on the radio. So just putting everything together, just her on just a fun Friday, Saturday night, being like, oh shit, no reason to call any other police for this. Or
she
even
does. She tries when she finds the blood. She tries to call the police, and they're like, because of the storm, like, we're receiving too many calls. Sorry about it.
Yeah, just not like not the murder. Yeah, that's okay. We're responding to some other
there's
stuff.
storm issues.
And he did say, like, the dean was like, oh yeah, I called the police and told them everyone's going to be probably pranking you this weekend.
Yeah,
that's why I'm just like,
that feels like something that the police would have to be like, if someone makes a call, like, we do have to check, like, even if they suspect it might be a prank. That I'm again not 100% sure here, but I really think that the police have to check something out. If you say that, like, you found a body, whether they think you're pranking or not.
I mean, I'd hope so. I mean,
because also you get in trouble if it's not true.
So
either way, they're doing their job.
Right. Our tax dollars are certainly paying for it. So I think they fucking better come out.
Yeah, I would hope that they would.
So,
A puddle of blood, like, and they're like, no, we can't. We don't have time for that.
so you've got yeah, Rebecca Gayheart and Natalie S. And you've got Jared Leto. They're like, we need to get the fuck out of here. Let's go. They make it down towards to the gas station, and then
Hmm.
that's when they find Wexler's
Well, they
body
keep
in the back,
mentioning, yeah, they
or
keep
that
mentioning
smell.
that the car smells. Yeah. And Jared Leto's like, I'm like, I don't notice anything. Like they're trying to throw you off. It's super obvious that Brenda is the killer as soon as she says that she is giving Natalie her blessing to date Paul. At that point, I'm like, oh, yeah, you you were too bitter. Like that can't be the case.
Yeah,
And this is where, okay, this is where the movie starts to like drag for me for a little bit, when once they discover this body and they're like running through the woods, and there's the whole sequence of, Brenda screaming to throw off Natalie and make her think that it's Paul, and then she's like trying to use the emergency phone, then she hears the screaming, like the whole like sequence of all of that, like that, I found that whole thing, like I started to like lose focus and literally stopped even writing notes. Um, but once she gets into the house, the Stanley Hall, it picks up again.
and in between that you have, well, yeah, it's like good on Brenda. Like that was pretty miraculous to get her
Smart.
all the way to Stanley Hall, especially because at first you've got the whole situation with the janitor in the truck, who is again like Brad Dourif in the beginning, like even worse, like doing no favors to not be a fucking creep, and
Yes.
like grabbing her and being like, the door's locked, sweetheart,
What's
and blah blah
wrong
blah.
with you? Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like,
She
oh my
just said
gosh.
that someone was after her. That's what's wrong.
And then again, it's like, I don't think Brenda had a plan at this point. She was just running around the woods screaming, being
Yeah.
like, let's just confuse her. And then
Yeah.
gets into Paul's car and then drives the truck off the road. Luckily, only killing the janitor and giving Natalie like barely any scratch whatsoever. Um, and then also just how, oh, this worked out just perfectly. Her crashed the car in just a direct line over to Stanley Hall, where she
Yeah.
gets there. So they couldn't have gotten that far if they hadn't had. Yeah, how far could they have
Not
possibly
far
even
at
gotten?
all. Like that, I mean, how long would it have taken her to get there if it was like a mile?
Right?
Like at least like 10 or 15 minutes?
I would think so. So she makes her way back, and again, I'd mentioned like, I'm impressed. Most of these deaths
Mm-hmm.
seem like they could have been reasonably done, by Rebecca Gayheart. But how did she get all these bodies to this building? And especially
Mm-hmm.
like, say, you know, like the people. I don't remember if so. Okay, so Parker and Tara Reid, they're not their bodies were not brought to Wexler Hall because they're still over at the other house during the party. But you do find Damon. You do find
No,
uh,
Parker's body is there.
how
He's the first one that she discovers.
how does it
I
like that
don't know.
fast? Anyone who
And
could
then
carry a body.
who's under the sheet? The second body that she discovers. That's
I don't.
not Tara Reid,
It might be. I guess so. I don't remember. Does
which
she?
still
Is this
doesn't make
Tosh?
sense because Reese would have found her and then she would have had to double back to go get her. Damon makes sense because there's so much time in between his kill and there's all these discoveries. Still hanging.
Right. Pretty
I
fun.
also like that she screams. She like screams so loud at each body that she discovers. Like I think after the first one, you'd be like, okay, if I scream again, whoever did this is gonna know where I'm located. Like, shut the fuck up, girl.
And it's like
Shut up.
you've seen all these dead bodies like already,
Yeah,
like
like
let's
let's
calm
calm
down.
down. Yeah. Like get your shit together. You have a big fight to win
I know.
any minute now.
And then I do think the movie, like again, I think saves itself a lot when you get to this next scene and you hear,
Mm-hmm.
you hear Brenda screaming upstairs. She goes up, Alicia Witt goes upstairs, is like, trying to be like, okay, let's get you free and this and this and this and this. And then you got your reveal. It's
No,
Brenda.
she's pretending to be dead.
I think.
She's laying on the bed and she's
Oh,
pretending to
right,
be
right, right.
dead. And then when Natalie turns around to grieve her, she like hits
Gets
her.
up, knocks her out.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good punch, knock her out like that.
Yeah.
And
Right in the middle of the forehead, you can see like her bruise later, which I like a lot.
I like the attention to detail. And then took the time to change her eye makeup at least.
I have a lot of things to say about her appearance here.
I'm gonna pass it to you because I love all of this. And I think
Okay.
Rebecca Gayheart is fantastic. And you go for it.
I okay. I absolutely love Rebecca Gayheart. I think she's amazing in this movie. She also, I'm gonna go on a curly hair community tangent here. She was one of the few actresses that was like a really big deal that had curly hair and made it look great. Not to mention, and this isn't a dig against her, every time they would straighten her hair in a movie, and you see it at the end of this movie, she looked like 10 years older. Like it aged her whenever her hair was straightened, but she always rocked her hair curly, and I really appreciate it. She always wore it very fluffy curly. And you'll notice in this entire movie, it is not particularly fluffy. It's pretty flat. All of a sudden, Homegirl reveals herself as a crazy killer, and she has the fluffiest curly hair. Like it looks like she's a completely different person. Her hair is doubled in size. And that to me is one of the most frustrating things as someone with curly hair because there's this stigma against it, like being crazy and messy and like this like attachment to it being unprofessional or like unhinged. So it bothers me so much. Like it looks better. Like her hair looks better once she's revealed to be the killer. But it is one thing that I just can't stand. I love the crazy eye makeup. And I think they did a good job of making her look a little bit more loony than, she was before. But wow, that just it gets me every time, that the hair thing. It really, really bothers me. And it's such a repeat thing that you see like growing up and like even back then and even still now, like the way that like curly hair changes the character. Just wanted to throw that out there because I think she's great and I really love her reveal.
It's funny you brought that up because there are three different forms her hair takes. One is the picture of her with her fiance, where her hair is
Mm-hmm.
the straightest it is in the
It's like
movie.
slicked back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got,
Super polished.
so you have the transition of the curlier it gets, the crazier she is kind of
Yeah.
situation. So it's like you felt like even with the flattened curls, it was still like
Mm-hmm.
maybe she was just holding back the crazy and then just boom, just comes out.
Yeah.
So I think on a looks, it's like I get it, but I do hear you. I think that's it's unfair stereotype. It's just like
That
whoops.
being said, she looks super hot, like with her fluffed out hair and that messy black eyeliner. I love it. And I
Yeah.
yeah, something that we skipped over too is when Natalie tells Brenda the story of how it happened,
Hmm.
like how the death of this man happened. And I wonder if in that moment Brenda was like, "Oh shit, I thought Natalie was driving the car," and she had like made this whole plan around thinking she was the one. It's the only way that things would make sense, really.
I and it's funny because like at the end it's I love you used an urban legend to kill my boyfriend, Natalie. Now I'm gonna use urban legends to kill everyone. And I was also getting Michelle Pfeiffer Batman Returns vibes from
Yes,
her.
yes.
Saw that kind of channeling. I loved that.
More more fluffed out curly hair as the
Yep.
woman gets crazier.
Yeah, geez.
Yep,
You're onto something. I
I am.
but yeah, I think that's hilarious. And she's like, wait, fuck. I thought you were the one driving the car. I got it wrong. Yeah, because exactly like you're right. Like I was telling that to my wife when we were watching it, where I'm like, why? I thought the same thing. I'm like, why kill Michelle first? Even like in
Yeah.
the flashback scene, it's like Michelle's the one like laughing and doing ha ha ha, and it's like I guess and yeah, Natalie is like, oh, I could have said no or
Hmm.
stop, I get that, but so that's why I'm like, again, yeah, it makes way more sense to do it the other way. But I do think that would be funny, and I think that would have even been a perfect line too if Rebecca Gayheart had said that to the end. She was like, "Yeah, well, I kind of fucked up a little bit, but
Yeah, that's
when you get,
improvised.
but you have to improvise when you get a little too excited. You miss some of the details. Whoops.
Yeah.
But hey,
Yeah,
Natalie,
that would have been a
you,
great way to just
yeah,
fix that whole plot.
you get
Absolutely.
you get to be on this earth a little longer. You're welcome. But now I'm gonna have to take your kidney.
Yeah.
So
And I love that she says she's not sure where the kidney is. She's like, I'm just going to pull out the first organ I see.
I love
That's
it. Well,
terrifying.
because I'm pretty sure the kidneys are kind of more in the back, but she's just like, I'm just
Yes.
gonna keep cutting. But
Yeah.
and there was
She
that
was
last
going
one.
like
She
appendix territory.
and
That's
then
right.
you've got Reese comes back at this point, and I think gets incapacitated,
Mm-hmm.
and then Paul shows up.
Yes, once Brenda has the gun, Paul shows up and tries to like, act like he's into it. Like, oh, like you were trying to help me in my journalism career and like let's do this.
At
Let's
first,
be a
she's like,
power couple.
"I
I love
love
that she
it,
says we'd be so fucking hot together, Paul.
I love it," and then especially just you're cute, but not that fucking cute.
Yeah.
But and then of course then the eeny meeny
Oh,
miny, then fucking our
so
hero of this
good.
movie, Loretta Devine,
Mo.
Mo, bam, and just how she says it, and just that, you just trust everything she says with that
It's
voice.
it's the most ridiculous fun thing. Like it makes me laugh out loud every time.
Yeah.
That eeny meeny miny mo.
Yeah, then they're like, okay, so she has a, Loretta Devine does have a stomach like bullet wound.
Yeah.
Um and they're like, all right, we're gonna call the paramedics and leave. And
Yeah,
but you'll be fine.
she tells them to get out of there too, which
Why?
I thought was really weird. Yeah, I'm like, why would you do that? Also, Brenda flew out that window like from getting hit just by like a 9 millimeter. Like that doesn't seem like it would have enough power to send a woman through an entire window. Like that's like shotgun territory. So that kind of bothered me a little bit, but and that didn't kill her
Yeah.
getting shot and falling out of the second story window. But I love that they're like she's fine. She's going to be great. The paramedics are on their way. Like you couldn't have waited.
And then just think of just after just all these awful traumatic events, they're driving home. Wexler's body's still in the trunk of that car, I would think.
I hope they dumped him somewhere.
Right? And then they would have, and then also, how did they get the keys to the car? I thought Brenda would have them, unless she left them somewhere, right? Because she was the last one driving it.
Yeah. I mean,
But
they could have just taken it off of her body.
yeah, I guess they don't. They could have edited that out and just assumed that we would, fill in the pieces ourselves. But I did like how they were like, yeah, maybe this will be an urban legend, and this and this and this, and then you're
Yeah.
like, y'all, like, your friends are. Well, I mean, I think your friends are like,
Everyone's dead.
everyone's dead. Like
They're
that's,
like giggling. They're like, you'd be a cop and Brenda will be a man. Like coming up with all these fun ideas of how it will evolve.
and then it's like what's
And
the twist?
yeah, okay, this is great because Brenda's in the back and
Mm-hmm.
again, the axe from behind in the car, but he just keeps driving. Like Paul doesn't think to himself, now might be a good time to pull over this car.
Yeah, it's
Keeps going.
and again, just how unwieldy it is with an axe in the back of the car like that. And then also, where did you get the axe from? Unless she has like a spare set of axes somewhere, which I guess would make sense if I were like an axe wielding, parka wearing
Yeah.
serial
You would
killer.
you would want to have extra axes just in case.
Yeah. Um, yeah, geez. So, but then again, I mean, she was like, "Ah, well, fuck it. It worked the first time. Still counts as an urban legend. I'll hide behind your car." And then very conveniently, she again crashes through a window, flies multiple stories down,
Off a
um,
bridge
off a
into the
bridge
water.
into the
Still
water,
alive.
and then they're like, "Oh, okay, we're just gonna leave this alone too." And then that's it. And then it just jumps forward to you. Just I mean, you assume that Loretta Devine's all right, and then we hop back to this is it the same
Different
college?
college.
Different
No, it's a
college, right?
different college.
Which I fucking love. If there wasn't, I guess you'd have the killer revealed immediately, but uh, if you could give me sequels either with Loretta Devine, I guess maybe Loretta Devine going from college to college, trying to track, you know, Rebecca Gayheart, who's going from college to college doing this, which I think is awesome. I hope she kills every one of those people at
That
the end of
that
that
would have been
movie.
awesome.
But
Yeah,
I loved it.
they all look 30. Those
Yeah.
college students look so old to be there. Even yeah.
Even by like 90s, like 30-year-olds playing high school standards,
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, but I did like that at the end where she's like, but here's how it really happened, and this and this and this.
Yeah.
Even with that,
She's not in the sequel, which is kind of frustrating. Not
yeah,
to spoil the sequel or anything, but
nah, you're
yeah,
good.
Rebecca Gayheart does not return, but Loretta Devine does.
Hell yeah, and that's cool. I would, just like, it's, it's that, it's the media, just trying to get you on board with making all these super heroic cops and shit, and I'm like, damn it, because I love that trope of like
She's
small
great.
town put upon, sheriff or campus police officer just on their own solving a mystery. I love it.
But like in actuality, that's kind of how I like to think like the best cops do operate, where they like don't really fit in with the other ones. And like the reason why is because they're so amazing and awesome. And they're just like, okay, I'm going to handle this shit on my own. Because I think even in the second one, when like murders start happening again that are urban legend themed, she's like, I've seen this before. You're like, fuck
Hell yeah.
yes.
Hell fucking yeah.
That's exactly what you would want. I don't know if I want to put you through watching that movie if you haven't seen it. I remember it being pretty terrible.
Pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll report back and we'll see if I end up watching it. I'll share my thoughts. Gosh, then that wraps up the movie.
Yeah.
Um so, again, each time, we have a patent pending, by the way, so please be courteous. A patent pending 5 boo rating system. 1 boo being like, not so spooky. And then 5 boos
Mhm.
being in just industry legend status. Um, so,
And three being average, good, fine.
yeah, yeah, wonderful. And then we throw in some half boos because, come on,
Hmm.
we're human.
Five makes it, you've got to give some room for some wiggle room in there because 1 through 10 is a little too much.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah. Ah, no. Yeah. Just
half
five,
boost.
five, five boost system. Now I'm gonna go ahead and say, fuck. This is nostalgia feeding into this one quite a
I knew
bit,
it.
but I'm gonna say just shoot it straight. It's a four boo movie.
4 boos?
I fucking love Urban Legend. This movie is fucking great. You
Wow.
have you have okay. First of all, think of your base movie, which is fine. It's a fine,
Okay.
enjoyable thing. You've got some you've got some fun kills here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, okay. See, I keep giving things 3.5, so I don't. So 'cause normally I would take a boo back for the dog situation because normally I
Mm.
just not having it with that movie or with that kind of situation. But geez, you give me Daniel Harris, you give me Loretta Devine, and then you give me Robert England and Brad Dourif. I'm like, those are all half booze each. So it's like you're getting already like a 2 boo surplus, 2 boo padding here.
Okay,
The icing.
I'm gonna say this. I don't think that there needs to be a hard set of rules here. I'm okay with us just going rogue, but half a boo for each industry legend is quite generous.
Yeah, well, you know,
Like I feel
you're
like
in
there
that
needs to
status.
be I feel like there needs to be a cap on how many half boos you can add for amazing cast members. Like at that point, is it like, okay, you've got four, so maybe you add just one extra boo for all four?
I thought I gave a full boo to Tony Todd for Final Destination, didn't I? Like just him alone. I can't
No, it
remember.
was it was a half boo. Yeah. No, if it's a four, I really struggled with this, and this happens a lot for me because
So it
I
means it's a
generally
two. It's a two otherwise for me without those elements.
okay, okay. I went back and forth a lot about this, and I think I'm just going to shout out a number and hope that it feels right because I like I like bad movies. So I'll start by saying that I like movies that I would consider to not be great movies, but I would tell people to watch this movie.
How
Like
is
I
that
would
relevant?
recommend this movie. That how it's relevant is
It's a great
the
movie.
nostalgia, you asshole.
This isn't
The
a bad movie. What are you talking about?
nostalgia like raises it for me because I've seen it so many times that I keep watching it, but I wouldn't put it in my top favorite movies, and anything that I would give four boos I would put in like in my favorites. So
I mean, I would say comparing comparing it against its peers, I don't know. Like watching it again, I was like, I will rewatch this more than I Know What You Did Last Summer.
that was going to be my question to you is would what I mean, we'll probably talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer, but would you rate this higher than I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Yeah, not by much,
Wow.
not by much,
Okay.
not by much, because I just don't give two shits about. Okay, the
Julian
only
Ray.
saving things, yeah, the you have Ryan Philippe, or and then Sarah Michelle Gellar, who are I
Mm-hmm.
think are really strong, great in that
So
movie,
good.
and that's it. I mean, the rest of it's pretty just
Yeah.
it's kind of a drag. It's pretty
It's long.
slow. It's long.
It's like 2 hours long. This movie is an hour and 40 minutes.
It's crisp, fresh. Love it.
Okay. I am gonna give it, I'm gonna push it up a half a boo for all four of those amazing industry legends.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
That's pretty good.
Even for all of the things that I have take issue with. I do enjoy watching it. It's a comfort, it's like a comfort movie. Like if I was, you know, if I travel for work and I'm in a hotel and I'm flipping through channels and Urban Legend is on, I'm definitely gonna stop. I'm not gonna pass it
100%.
by.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a
Yeah.
fun one. I think that there was a stretch of those, some really bad slashers in 1996 to 1999 that, but fuck, I watched
Yeah.
every single one of them, and we'll probably do
So did
episodes on
I.
every single one of them.
Oh, okay. I I I was thinking maybe we group together a lot of the shitty ones
Uh-huh.
and just kind of run through them. Like do like a power run through. Like I think of like movies like My Soul to Take.
I
Do you
was gonna
remember
say
that
I
movie?
was gonna say Valentine with David Boreanaz.
I like Valentine. Is that
That's
I
is that
think I think we need to do Valentine.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Well, maybe we'll wait till next
We're
February.
we're we're just planning the schedule.
Yeah.
If anyone has any suggestions or feels strongly about Valentine or any of these late 90s, early 2000s slashers, they can weigh in.
Yeah.
Maybe they think
Well,
something's underrated.
Well, see, I think my very bold four boo and your 3.5. See, we ended up pretty close.
I I think this movie having a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes is absolute bullshit. Like that I do not agree with because the other movies that I can think of that have a 24% are awful. Like um one of them being Resident Evil. The when did
They're
that
all
come out? In
they're all
2000.
pretty
They're all
bad.
awful, but they're all in the 20s and I'm like, I'm sorry. There is no world where Urban Legend and Resident Evil are on the same like playing field. I don't see that. Now I'm defending it. Look at this. We
See what I've done? I'm like, hey, I'm like, I'll go to this TED talk comparing Urban Legend against Resident Evil.
just me going through this emotional roller coaster of
Yeah.
my feelings of on this movie.
Hmm. Another series with Ali Larder. We're gonna keep finding,
Oh,
you know,
man. It all ties together. The horror
yeah.
community is tight.
Well, we spent quite a deal of time talking about this beautiful treasure of a movie. Is there anything
We
else
did.
that we need to touch base on?
No, but I do think you should watch the sequel. I am
All right.
curious. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Is it better or worse? Oh, I love I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I think that
I
movie is
love
more
I Still
fun.
Know What You Did Last Summer.
That one
It's
is
so great.
fuck. Maybe we just yeah, maybe we just skip right, just go right to
Just
that
skip
one.
it. Or just
Yeah.
like give ourselves a solid half an hour to talk about the first one because everyone has talked about I Know What You Did Last Summer at nauseum, but I still know what you did last summer.
That
That's an underrated movie.
that karaoke bit is the dumbest, most awesome thing. It makes no sense, but I love it so much. They just need an excuse to show people Jennifer Love Hewitt could sing, so they could
Yes.
release that single. How do I deal? You know?
Yes.
Yeah, that song's
Oh my
terrible,
God.
but I know it. But I know it, and I would sing it sometimes, just drunkenly to annoy people around me. And especially when they don't know what it is, and then we're just like, just stop. What
Like,
is
what is
that?
that terrible song? They're like, is that an original? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, it is. I wish. You would be the only one that would know. You're like, have I heard that fucking stupid song before?
Oh,
But
I know that song.
yeah, how do I deal with you reminding me about this fucking song? Um, gosh, I think we're
Yeah,
here.
I know. You know what? Going into this movie, I did not think that it would create such a rich dialogue.
I had a feeling it would. Like I said, this movie, it's like it's like an onion. It's got layers. Like Shrek said to that donkey. The other movie Shrek. The other movie Shrek.
I am curious, Kyle, who would you recommend this movie to in the year of 2023 that may not have seen it?
Um, I see. I feel like I had a lot of fun watching it. Say with, my wife who is not really into slashers at all, but loves mysteries. That's why we
Mm,
got her into Scream, and that's what I loved about Scream so much was the murder mystery
hmm.
component, and that's what I like so much about these '90s slashers. And there's '80s ones, obviously the '80s ones too, but the ones that aren't like Jason or Freddy or whatever. But a lot of them
Hmm.
have that murder mystery component. So you got your that not to compare Urban Legend to like Agatha Christie, but a little bit, you just
Was
have
this her was this her first time watching it?
no, we'd watched it before
Okay.
when on my recommendation, and she liked it. So outside the dog bits, literally
Hmm.
the dog bits, all over,
Literally.
all inside that, hearted is just yeah, just how, and I just think for a college, I'm just thinking just the state of college microwaves. How many weeks before you think someone finally cleans that out?
Or even realizes what it is. They're like, who the fuck left spaghetti in here?
I was gonna say how many bowls of spaghettios you think were microwaved in there after the fact, just from
Oh
lazy ass college
God.
students. We're like,
Yeah, they just move enough of the chunks to fit their bowl in there.
oh, I don't know what you might make it worse by calling them chunks. I thought
Well,
that Bits was
I'll
bad.
see it.
That's true. Well, that wraps
Yeah.
it up for Urban Legend for us. So, hold your hold your bets close. Um,
Sorry,
ta
sorry if we took up a large chunk of your time.
Take care, Natalie. You have a good one. And I appreciate you as always. And gosh, thanks everybody. Take care. In 3, 2, 1, Ghost.
Thanks for listening to our episode on Urban Legend. If you enjoyed listening to us as much as you love listening to Under the Covers with Sasha, you can find us on social media and give us a follow. You can find us on Instagram at 321GhostPod. You can also find us on Twitter at 321GhostPod, but hopefully not for much longer. If you'd like to send us an email with any questions, comments, concerns, or maybe a suggestion for a movie you'd like us to chat about, you can also shoot us an email at 321ghostpod@gmail.com. If you're listening to us on any sort of streaming platform, we would love and appreciate if you could leave us a killer review. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to check the back seat. 3, 2, 1, Ghost.